The western Transdanubia region is one of the 8 major regions of Hungary. It lies in the northwest of the country and consists of 3 counties: Győr-Moson-Sopron, Vas and Zala. The region has a total population of 1 million. Due to its location and high level of urbanization, it has traditionally been a multi-center area. The most important cities in the region are Győr, Sopron, Szombathely, Nagykanizsa and Zalaegerszeg, among which Győr is considered to be the industrial and economic hub of western Transdanubia. Geographically speaking, the region mostly belongs to the small Hungarian plain in the north, the Prealps in the west, and the foothills of the Transdanubian mountains in the middle and in the south. The main rivers are the Danube, which embraces the so-called Szigetköz, a 50 kilometers long island, with a smaller branch in the north, the Rába, which flows into the Danube there, and the Zala, which is the main tributary of Lake Balaton in the south. Lake Fertő, also known as Nagy-Zidlerzé, is the second largest natural lake in the country, but most of its territory belongs to Austria. Its moorland and wildlife are protected as part of the joint Austro-Hungarian Fertőhansság National Park. The highest point of the region is the 882 meters high Mount Irotkő in the Kőszeg Mountains, just on the Austrian border. Along with the Sopron Mountains, it is situated in the westernmost part of the Prealps and has a special mountain climate, flora and fauna. The northwestern shores of Lake Balaton, the country's and Central Europe's largest lake, belongs to the region too. The Keszthely Mountains and the Zala Hills are famous for their woodlands and wildlife. The Little Balaton was once connected to the waters of the Greater Lake, but after the agricultural transformation of the area, it became a unique moorland, a real paradise for birds and a reserve for traditional Hungarian domesticated animals. The volcanic Sághegy in the northernmost reaches of the Balaton uplands has a special character, and due to its fertile soil, it is an optimal place for wine cultivation too. Definitely one of the loveliest regions of Hungary is the Őrség, which once used to be the western borderland of medieval Hungary. The area still retains its unspoiled character. Its green meadows and fresh streams, as well as exceptional rural architecture and lifestyle in tiny villages, attract a lot of visitors. Its natural heritage is also protected as part of the Őrség National Park. Győr is the most populous city of the region and also the 6th most populous in Hungary. It is the county seat of Győr-Moson-Sopron and has 130,000 inhabitants. The city was built on the ruins of the ancient Roman town of Arabona, founded at the confluence of 4 rivers, the smaller branch of the Danube, the Rába, the Marcal and the Rábca. Due to this strategic location halfway between Budapest and Vienna and close to Pozsony, today Bratislava in Slovakia, Győr has played an important role in commerce and transport between Austria and Hungary, and also in the defense of the country throughout the centuries. Since the very early times, it has been a cultural, educational and religious hub too. One of the first 10 bishoprics of Hungary, founded by Saint Stephen, is in Győr, which is still the center of the Roman Catholic diocese. Lutheran and Jewish communities also played a significant role in the city's everyday life in the past. The University of Győr offers study programs in several fields of science and arts, such as mechanical engineering, law and economics. There is a strong research and development cooperation between academia and the local industry, especially the German Audi company, having its largest automotive factory in Győr. Audi is one of the most important employers in the region and in Hungary as well. The Roman Catholic Cathedral, together with the surrounding buildings, the Bishop's Palace and the Seminar Building, is one of the iconic landmarks of the city. Originally built in the 11th century, the basilica preserved Romanesque as well as Gothic elements, but its character is predominantly Baroque. The most famous relic of the church is the urn of King Saint Ladislaus, who was originally buried in Nagyvárad, today Oradea, in Romania. But after his canonization in 1092, a piece of his skull was removed from the tomb, which is preserved in the golden reliquary statue richly decorated with gemstones. Another landmark of Győr is the City Hall, a majestic late 19th century neo-Baroque building that serves as the headquarters of the city's administration. Its main tower is 59 meters high, which makes it the tallest building in the downtown. Győr is also famous for its historical cityscape, the narrow parallel streets, the beautiful Baroque churches such as the two-towered Benedictine Church and the Carmelite Church, and civic buildings too. Most of these residential buildings have a closed balcony on their corner, adding a unique charm to the city's character. Founded in 996 by Grand Prince Géza, father of Saint Stephen, the Benedictine Archabbey of Pannonhalma is one of the oldest religious complexes in Hungary. Located in the Sukaró Hills, on the top of the so-called Mount of St. Martin, the magnificent hilltop building is one of the most famous treasures of the region. Visiting the medieval basilica, the Baroque refectory and the library, with a collection of more than 350,000 books, visitors can experience a spiritual journey. The most valuable document of the Abbey archives is the founding charter of the Tihany Abbey from 1055, which includes the first known written text in Hungarian language. The complex today is home to about 50 monks and the famous boys' high school. Besides pilgrims, it offers several activities for secular tourists too, including wine tastings and tours in the Archabbey's herbal gardens. The Archabbey of Pannonhalma is part of the UNESCO World Heritage. Speaking of history, culture, education and tourism, the city of Sopron is definitely one of the top cities of Hungary. Having 65,000 inhabitants, it is the third most populous settlement of western Transdanubia. Sopron, called Ödenburg in German, is located just on the current Austrian border, in the valley of Ikva stream, at the foothills of the Prealps, the Sopron Mountains. The territory has been populated since prehistoric times. Originally founded by the Celts, the ancient Roman city of Scarbantia was one of the significant settlements along the historical trade route, the so-called Amber Road, which once connected the Adriatic and the Baltic regions of Europe. The ruins of Roman houses and streets are still visible in the basements of some downtown houses, and also in the archaeological park behind the city hall. The most important finds including gravestones, sanctuary altars, as well as the giant marmoreal statues of Jupiter, Juno and Minerva. The main deities of the ancient Romans are exhibited in the lapidarium at the main square, which was built upon the ruins of the old forum of Scarbantia. Following the demolition of the ancient city and later on the Frankish and the Hungarian conquest, Sopron became one of the 10 free royal cities of Hungary in the Middle Ages. Its rich and unique medieval cityscape, with narrow streets and beautiful historical buildings, has been spared by most disasters of Hungarian history. Due to this, Sopron has the second largest number of monuments in the country after Budapest. Although most of the old civic buildings and noble residences reflect the style of Baroque today, well-preserved architectural elements from the Gothic and Renaissance period survived too. The Storno, the Fabricius and the Lackner houses Three noteworthy buildings of the main square, now serving as museums, are the finest examples of this phenomenon. Historical churches, such as the Gothic Goat Church, the St. Michael's Church, and the richly decorated Baroque St. George Church are remarkable sights. The city was among the first ones in Hungary affected by the Reformation, a major European movement that reshaped Western Christianity. The oldest Lutheran community of the country was established here in the early 16th century. There are significant remnants of the city's Jewish heritage as well. Two medieval synagogues have survived the centuries, giving us some insight into the colorful life of Sopron in the past. The most iconic landmark of the city is the 60 meters high fire watchtower, which was erected upon the ancient Roman main gate. It was part of the city's defense system, and not only against the enemy. Being the center of one of the most significant wine regions in Hungary, Sopron used to protect its markets against the import of foreign wine, which was controlled from the tower too. Wine has traditionally been produced by local German-speaking citizens, the so-called Ponzichters. The region's flagship wine is the deep ruby blue Frankish, but also Cabernet Sauvignon, Zweigelt, as well as some white varieties such as Traminer and Italian Riesling are cultivated in Sopron too. Besides wine, the city is also a proud beer producer. The famous Soproni is one of the most popular brands in Hungary. The first coal mine of the Kingdom of Hungary was opened in Sopron too. The coal fields of Bremberg made a considerable contribution to the industrial development of Austria-Hungary. After the tragic Treaty of Trianon, the historical Royal Academy of Mining and Forestry had to move from Selmecbánya, today Banská Štiavnica in Slovakia. The institution found a new home in Sopron. Its old traditions and legacy are still kept alive by students and professors of the University of Sopron, which has a portfolio of forestry, wood industry, design, pedagogy and economics. Sopron is also known as the most loyal city of Hungary. This loyalty was first proven in 1277, when the city opened its gates to the King of Hungary to help him recapture it, despite the children of the citizens having been taken hostage by the Czech army. For the second time, Sopron proved its loyalty to the motherland after the Great War. According to the Treaty of Trianon, Sopron was to be annexed to Austria, but as a result of the resistance of students and local politicians, a referendum was held. Almost two-thirds of the voters in Sopron and 8 neighboring villages decided to remain part of Hungary. The third time, when history called, Sopron proved its loyalty to the European values and expressed hope for a better future. On the 19th of August 1989, after the so-called Pan-European picnic, thousands of East Germans marched across the Iron Curtain near Sopron to get to Austria. It was one of the key events that eventually led to the fall of the Iron Curtain and opened the way to the democratic unification of Europe. Close to Sopron, on both sides of the border, lie Lake Fertő and its moorlands. The area is not only under the natural protection of the joint Austro-Hungarian National Park, but also UNESCO World Heritage Site as a cultural landscape. This category indicates a unique status granted for a harmonic coexistence of nature and human culture being present. The village of Fertőrákos lies just a few kilometers from Sopron. It is famous for providing the only access to the open water of the lake on the Hungarian side. But its most iconic landmark is the 2000-year-old limestone quarry. Opened by the ancient Romans, the quarry supplied building material for construction works to ancient Scarbantia, medieval Sopron, and even the 19th century Vienna. Many famous buildings of the Austrian capital too were built of Fertőrákos limestone. Nagycenk used to be the center of the territories governed by the aristocratic Széchenyi family. Their palace with its English garden is a fine example of neoclassical architecture. Most of the famous descendants of the family, such as Count István Széchenyi, also known as the greatest Hungarian, are buried in the family mausoleum located in the local cemetery. Another attraction of the village is an open-air locomotive outdoor museum and a 3.5 kilometers long steam railway line. The majestic Esterházy Palace in Fertőd is one of the most significant monuments in Hungary, a real gem of Baroque architecture. Thanks to its design and French garden, it is also called the Hungarian Versailles. The current U-shaped building once used to be a hunting mansion, but Prince Miklós Esterházy the Magnificent ordered that it be rebuilt in a flamboyant style, which better fitted his rank and status. For centuries, the palace served as a summer residence for the most influential Hungarian noble family, the Esterházys. The building has 126 rooms, of which the most decorated are the Apollo Room and the so-called Sala Terrana. The palace is also famous for the great composer József Haydn, one of the great masters of the first Viennese school of the classical period, who served in the principal courtyard for decades. With 80,000 inhabitants, Szombathely, the seat of Vas County, is the second most populous city of the region. Built on the ruins of the ancient Roman colony Savaria, another significant settlement along the historical Amber Road, Szombathely's history also dates back 2 millennia in time. The remaining walls and houses, as well as temples, are remnants of one of the greatest empires in human history. The archaeological park, together with the Iseum, the sanctuary of the Egyptian goddess Isis, is the most iconic landmark of the city. The Savaria Historical Carnival, one of Hungary's famous festivals, features a fair and a costume parade organized in the city center every summer. Tradition has it that Savaria was the birthplace of the famous Roman Catholic saint, Saint Martin of Tours, whose cult has had great influence on regional identity as well as on universal Catholicism. Nowadays, Szombathely is one of the Roman Catholic bishoprics in Hungary, a religious, cultural and educational hub. The main church of the city is the Baroque Cathedral of Our Lady of the Visitation. The once independent College of Szombathely today is part of the Budapest-based Eötvös Loránd University. The institution offers study programs in engineering, pedagogy, and a lot more areas of science and arts. The tiny town of Kőszeg is one of the most picturesque historical settlements of Hungary. Located in the Kőszeg Mountains at the foothills of the Alps, it is surrounded by alpine forests. Narrow streets, enchanting old houses and churches, as well as excellent wine cellars help visitors imagine the life of Kőszeg's winemakers. Similarly to Sopron, the most significant local wine is Blue Frankish. The most important landmark of Kőszeg is the castle, which was named after its famous defender during the Ottoman siege in 1532, Captain Miklós Gyuricic. The St. George Parish Church of Jak is the most well-preserved Romanesque building in Hungary. The former Benedictine monastery was established in 1214. The most remarkable parts of the building are the columns and statues of its portal. Zala County has two major, almost equally populous cities. The county seat is Zalaegerszeg, with a population of 60,000. The city is primarily famous for its open-air ethnographic museum, the Skansen. Nagykanizsa has 50,000 inhabitants. Once it used to be an important fort of the Hungarian defense line, and during the Ottoman occupation it became a regional center of Turkish administration. The city of Keszthely is located on the northwestern shores of Lake Balaton. Its most iconic landmark is the Baroque Palace of the Festetics Counts, the second largest of its kind in Hungary. The palace complex is famous for its amazing library, the English and French gardens, and the Balaton Museum, located in a huge park. Keszthely is home to the so-called Georgikon, the oldest agricultural educational institution of Hungary and even of Europe. Western Hungary is rich in thermal springs too. There are numerous spas and baths across the region, such as the baths of Sárvár and Bükk. The world's second largest natural thermal lake is located in the small town of Hévíz, not far from Lake Balaton. The almost 40 degrees Celsius hot water, coming from a 38 meters deep thermal cave, created a unique, highly protected natural environment. Today, Hévíz is one of the most well-known places of medical and health tourism in Hungary.